This is the all-new Mercedes AMG GLE 53 Hybrid. That's right, there's now an additional model in the lineup and it sits between the standard 53 and the 63S. 0 to 100 kilometers per hour or 62 miles an hour is 4.7 seconds, and that also shows you exactly where it's placed. So, is this the 53 to get? I'm AJ, you're watching Autogefühl, and let's dive right into the details. Up front, the design is pretty much identical to the regular 53, and Mercedes-AMG have tried to maintain that because they're providing you with an additional powertrain option with the hybrid PHEV, but the design is the same. So you get these vertical slats for the AMG grille, finished in chrome, which I personally like. Lower down as well, quite shiny over here. In fact, this is probably the only slightly different design sections because they've had to integrate another cooler. As we go to the side, multi-beam LED headlamps as standard. In fact, you get a bunch of kit as standard on the 53 Hybrid, including the panoramic sunroof, the 360-degree camera, and a whole bunch of other things. Wheels as well start at 21 inches, but this is the 22, which is the option. Along the side, you see the hybrid badging, so that tells you already the differentiation between the standard 53. But overall, I really like the stance and the proportion of the GLE model, especially with the C-pillar here. Very traditional SUV, and I personally like this design as compared to, say, the GLC. What about you guys? Put it down in the comments below. The rear section is pretty typical, pretty standard, but this is the special element. The GLE 53 logo right now has the red back color. This also denotes that this is the hybrid. Chrome dash along the middle, more chrome down here and here, a diffuser, and oh boy, these are designer tips. They're not fake tips, but the actual exhaust is behind this, and this is more aesthetic. Well, well, well. Look at this. Designer tips, not real tips. But I can let you off with a warning this time, perpetrator. But if I catch you with fake air vents next time, I take you straight to jail. Ooh, sinister black AMG. Key fob, keyless entry, like I said. Inside, the door is very large, nice padding up here. Nice materials down here as well. Very soft touch. This, not as soft as this, but overall, not too bad. Also, as standard, you get the Burmester audio system here. Now, speaking of the interior, let's talk a little bit about the seats. So you get one form of the seat, so there is no performance seat with integrated head restraints. You get the standard sport seats. You can also have this with the microfiber and Artico, but you also get the animal Napa leather. I think the microfiber Artico is nice. Unfortunately, you don't get seat ventilation like with other Mercedes cars recently, unless you do pick the Napa leather option. Getting inside, SUV style, SUV body, which means you get a little bit of a climb up into the seat, but that's not too bad. I've kept the seat a little bit higher, and definitely this is a GLE. It feels like an SUV. The steering wheel, of course, we have the AMG steering wheel, which we'll get into some of the details. I love me a panoramic sunroof, and it's great that you get it as standard. It is one pane, but most of it does open, so thumbs up for that. Thumbs down, however, for if you look into the door pockets, there are not felt lined. There's a bit of rubber at the bottom, but the overall door pocket is quite hard. So sharp objects like keys or other metallic objects will rattle. But on the other hand, nice damped glove box with felt lining here. We have the nice diffuser, pretty cool. Carbon fiber elements here, looks really nice, very glossy. I also love the ambient lighting. Mercedes has nailed interior ambient lighting. Don't you guys agree? I know it's not for everybody, but if you don't like it, just turn it off. Let us enjoy it, right? Nice padded materials up here. Now, the twin screen layout here in the GLE, so continues for the AMG Hybrid. However, as you can imagine, you have a specific AMG view and you have a specific plug-in hybrid view. So with the AMG view, if I turn the engine on, you see the energy flow between the system of electric motor and the engine and the four-wheel drive. You can also see things like the suspension compression level, the engine output in terms of torque and so on. But if we go back to the charging menu, here you can see time left for charge. You can see how much current battery you have, the temperature and things like that. The navigation is also pretty smart, so it tries to optimize the energy flow depending on your navigation as well. As part of the EU regulation, now you have the speed limit warning chime. You can deactivate that here. And you also have wireless Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. It does occupy a fair bit of the screen. A little bit is still left out, but I like this layout. It's pretty usable. It takes up most of the screen, so pretty cool. Nice large air vents over here, and then toggle switches for manual control of the air conditioning, which is nice. The new E-Class, the sedan and the Estate, have all of that in touchscreen, so I prefer these here. This is a little bit more old school. Has a nice clicking sound as well, and you can see when I make it colder, it turns blue. If I make it warm, it turns red, so pretty cool there. A tambour door here that slides for a pretty large storage area, including a ventilated phone wireless charger and 2 USB-C. Nice adaptive, 2-level adaptive beverage holders, and check this out, you have a cooling system to cool your drink or a heating system to keep your drink warm. So awesome. Trackpad. So not only do you have the touchscreen, you can also use the trackpad. Not even talking about the steering wheel, which you can control the system from here as well, but shortcut buttons, including the camera, which is great because this is a pretty big car. So one touch and you get this lovely 3-dimensional view that you can use to position yourself. Look at the detail. You can see the light of you can see the street through the panoramic sunroof. Detail, very cool. This is just a nice place to rest your hand when you're operating the trackpad. Similarly here as well, this is a nice place to prop your arm up for the steering wheel, so the grip is nice. Ride height control, because this has, like I said, the air suspension with the adaptive control. Not the active, but still, you can raise and lower that. And as with most Mercedes, you have split armrest, which reveals a nice cubby hole with a tray that you can move around with some rubber in the bottom, so it's not going to clang around too much. More charging opportunities here as well. So here you have the AMG steering wheel, which is really nice because I love these stalks on either side. Yes, you have capacitive buttons. However, I think this is the best possible way to execute it because you have nice indentations and ridges, and you can actually press all of these buttons. AMG means, of course, you have the drive mode selector here, and there's 2 additional drive modes than the standard 53, and we'll talk about that later on. On the other side, you can see some hot buttons to change, for example, the suspension and the noise. Another interesting thing, of course, is the fact that you have paddle shifters, and we'll speak more about what these can do later on. Finally, in the instruments, you of course have AMG specific views, and you can set different versions of that, like the Super Sport, Classic, even the track pace, where you can see a little map of the, there we go, where you can see a little map of whatever track that you're driving on if you're really going to track this GLE. Also different head-up displays, including the track pace AMG on that, and even a race view, which I think looks really cool. Being a GLE, of course, you have the off-road view, which gives you the pitch and the yaw, as well as different suspension, compression rates. And there's also the top-down invisible bonnet kind of view, so you can see perhaps rocks and boulders, so you don't curb these really expensive but beautiful 22-inch rims. There's some cool features like this energizing comfort, where you have different programs like, I don't know if you want to do a power nap when you're driving, but definitely when you're stationary. For example, if you have this refresh, you can play this program. It will play some nice ambient music, some soundscapes, this graphic here. Your seat ventilation turns on. The air conditioning also blows air onto your face. Works pretty well. The GLE is about 5 meters long, which means there's plenty of room back here. Again, really tall body, so plenty of headroom. I'm about 5'8" or 1.7 meters. This is my driving position. Oh yeah, plenty of room. I can also slide my feet very comfortably below the seat. The door panel is also quite nice. It's got that carbon fiber finishing, the seat heater buttons there. Very nice padded elbow rest as well. Up here you also have a net for the door pocket, a little bit of a scooped out rear, so if you were sitting behind a very tall person, there's extra space because of that. Different climate zones, so there's 4, there's 2 more back here, controlled with this system here. More charging and a place to keep your phone. A center armrest with 2 stationary cup holders as well, and ISOFIX points, but I don't like the fact that the caps just come out completely because you are going to lose them. I would rather have them be like a hinge system, or like some of the other manufacturers, they just have a zipper so that you can just unzip and then plug in your seat and then close it up. This, you're gonna lose it. You have a powered tailgate and you get 690 liters of trunk volume. With the seats down, it's over 2,000 liters. You can move the parcel shelf away, but first, as you can already notice, you can't remove this. This is about it because this is where a lot of the electronic systems are, especially the battery for the plug-in hybrid, which also means, of course, as you might have guessed, there is no 7-seater. And with all of the battery and the electric motor, this weighs over 2.5 tons. Yeesh! But let's check real dimensions so you get a better idea of the kinds of things you can carry in here. So from that seat to here is about 103 centimeters or about 41 inches. The height, of course, is a lot more usable because it is, again, a big SUV. So if you were to look at it this way, or let's say maybe here, you're getting about 82 centimeters or about 32 inches. And you have, of course, a light, some tether points. You can also raise and lower the back here, so with the air suspension, so that you can load items much easily. You don't have to lift them as high. Seats fold down in a 60-40 fashion, so yeah, long items are also quite easy to carry here. So let's start with the battery. You get a 31 kilowatt hour gross battery, so net would be around 27%. You can charge this with the standard AC, or you can get the optional fast charger DC 60 kilowatts, and then you can get 10% to 80% of battery charge in about 20 minutes. Pure electric drive range is about 80 kilometers claimed, up to speeds of 140 kilometers per hour. The entire car is electronically limited to 250 kilometers per hour. But of course, what is it coupled with? It's got also the 3-liter inline-6 turbocharged petrol engine. So the combined output of this system is 554 horsepower and 750 newton meters of peak output. The motor is actually connected directly to the 9-speed TCT gearbox, and it drives the 4MATIC Plus all-wheel drive system. So it is a rear biased all-wheel drive system, but can send plenty of power to the front to help you in tricky situations. Now, keep in mind, there is no rear axle steering, and while this does get a new version of the AMG Ride Control, it's not necessarily the AMG Active Ride Control. So let's see how that fares out on these mountain twisty roads. You get the GLE 53 Hybrid also in the coupe body style, like the one here. This particular version also has the night pack, so you can see, for example, the lower part of the bumper is finished in gloss black. Similarly, black wheels, nice red calipers here as compared to our car. You get a side step, which is also different than the one we've been testing. But of course, the roofline is completely different, and you get a nice spoiler as well. The tail lamps also are quite different, much more sleek, very horizontal, and same GLE 53 badging in the red over here. Black design tips for the exhausts. Another interesting thing to keep in mind is, well, first of all, the coupe is more expensive, but also it comes as standard with the Napa leather seats, and you don't get the Artico seats even as an option. So the GLE 53 Hybrid. Of course, The benefit, the selling point is the fact that you can drive, claimed up to 80 kilometers in pure electric mode. And there are a couple special electric driving modes, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But we're in the Alps, albeit on a rainy day. So let's go into Sport Plus mode. Now the straight six turbo petrol roars to life. It takes center stage. Yes, acceleration is healthy. It's a good robust amount, 554 horsepower, 750 Newton meters. It's a combined peak output of this hybrid powertrain system. Definitely quite reactive and responsive. That electric motor directly on the TCT 9G speed shift transmission means that it can fill in all the gaps where there might be a little bit of turbo lag, or when the petrol engine needs a little bit of time to get into its full power band. The electric motor is really supplementing. So it's a very nice synergetic hybrid system that way. Steering is also pretty nice. The weight increases in the Sport Plus mode, but it's not too heavy. And I think that's because they're trying to make the car seem a bit lighter. It is over 2.5 tons, and it's a big 5-meter long SUV after all. But to be honest, that steering wheel weight does make it seem a lot smaller than it is. And thanks to the SUV seating position, you can also place the edges of the SUV a lot better than I would have expected. So it does feel smaller than it is, which is a great thing on narrow winding roads like this. Now this has the adaptive air suspension. It's a new system developed. It's an AMG ride control suspension system. It's not the active air suspension, which kind of tries to do the auto leveling. But that being said, we were speaking with the lead project engineer. They have already improved the stability with this system, and therefore they claim that it's just as good as the active system. And from my point of view, it seems quite about right. You definitely want to keep the engine around 4,500 RPM though. That's where it's singing, and it's also a lot more responsive on its own. Okay, I gotta slow down here. This is a pretty narrow road and there's quite a bit of traffic at the moment. These sport seats are also really comfortable. They have the right amount of firmness and cushioning. Side bolstering isn't a whole lot to speak of, but I think for this SUV, it is doing the right job. It's holding me in place pretty well. The large windshield also means that it's very easy for me to look deep into this corner, like I can look across this hairpin over here onto the other side of the mountain. So very easy to place. Even though there is no rear axle steering, the turning circle is actually very reasonable. And then let's talk about the four-wheel drive, because boy oh boy, a wet, narrow alpine road, driving like this, even though I'm not pushing the SUV too much, it's doing a really good job, giving me a lot of confidence. Thanks in part, of course, to the tires. Really wide, really grippy, so you're never feeling like this is getting out of shape. The brake pedal is a bit interesting. I say that because it's doing the recuperation and then using the friction brakes as needed. Now it has those really massive brake calipers and the brake rotors, but I really don't think it's using it all that much. Of course, I'm not pushing it, so that's probably why, because I feel like most of the braking is done with the regen, and it feels a little bit softer, and so the brake feel is not as consistent as I personally would have liked it. I do miss the V8 though, I'm not gonna lie. But it's nice that there's an option in the 53 lineup that you have the plug-in, because on a day-to-day driving, you don't want to have to spend so much on petrol all the time, and you can drive in pure electric to work every day, because 80 kilometers is, I think, plenty. My daily work commute is about just under 12 kilometers, so easily day's commute and then getting groceries or going out to dinner, that kind of stuff I can do completely in electric mode. Then of course, long road trips on the Autobahn. You have that beautiful straight six, which is of course a very smooth engine configuration. And then on a mountain road, the two systems come together to give you the best output. So let's talk about the other side of the spectrum now. So from Sport Plus, let me go into comfort mode. So the throttle response is a lot more dull. The steering becomes a lot less taut. It feels a little bit even further lighter, a little bit more disconnected. The engine is still running at the moment, but it will deactivate itself as often as possible and run in pure electric mode. And then of course, the suspension becomes a lot more supple, a lot softer as well. Now, a couple specific modes that are only available here in the GLE 53 Hybrid and not the standard 53 is the electric mode, because obviously this runs in pure electric, and you can see how much mileage you have left. Now I have about 53, 55-ish kilometers of range left. Towards the end of the drive, we'll report back some mileage numbers and efficiency numbers. But this is one of the specific driving modes here in the hybrid version. The other is an interesting mode called battery hold. And what this effectively does is now I'm telling the car, hold the battery at this percentage, around, 58%, 60% battery, around that much. And this is especially useful if at the end of my journey, like today we're driving back into Munich from the Alps, I want to drive within the city center in pure electric mode. And as we go further into the future with these regulations, that might often become the norm that within the city you need to drive in electric. So this way you can hold this much battery. So you say, I need 50 kilometers in the city to drive pure electric. So you can hold that, and the system will ensure that it will have that much left. Doesn't mean that it's not at all going to use the electric motor or the battery. It will, but it's already calculating my destination, it's calculating the topography, and it's going to use the electric motor nonetheless, but it will ensure that this much of battery is held. Pretty cool if you ask me. We made it out of the mountains, and we're in some clearer weather, and we're on some clearer roads. So we're on the German Autobahn, so let's stretch the legs and see how the GLE 53 Hybrid performs out here. First, let's talk about the seat comfort. So in general, I think these sports seats for long drives and even on the mountain roads, it holds you in place reasonably well, and on the highway as well, it supports all the places in your lower back, for example. So it gives you that kind of comfort for longer journeys. You can also adjust the lumbar support, you can adjust the height, you can adjust the under-thigh support length, so a whole bunch of adjustability. Right now I'm going about 180 kilometers per hour. You can see that I don't really have to raise my voice too much to speak to you, but certainly there is a bit more of wind noise at the moment. I'm surprised to see that there's actually not so much tire noise. These are pretty large wheels, and I was expecting to hear a lot more of the tire roar filtering up through the floor of the chassis. But I hear more of the wind from the mirror, hear a little bit of wind in this B-pillar area. It's not terrible, and again, I'm going 183, but it's so comfortable, it's so composed. It doesn't even feel like I'm going that speed. It feels like I'm going at a simple 120 or 130. So definitely very confidence-inspiring. The steering has a really nice weight to it. And remember, up to speeds of 140 kilometers an hour, you can drive with pure electric mode. So going around these gentle Autobahn bends at this point 200 kilometers an hour, yeah, no problem at all. So definitely high speed mannerisms is a plus point here in the GLE 53 Hybrid. But let's talk about the assistance systems, because I really like Mercedes assistance systems. The navigation, for example, itself, you have that augmented reality. So when you're going through a roundabout, you can even see, which exit to take on the roundabout. It puts that arrow on the image on your screen. It's really useful. The head-up display is gargantuan. It's so enormous. You can see pretty much a full map on the screen, on the head-up display, and the clarity is really top-notch. So the navigation, the augmented reality, the head-up display, combined with just this layout that you have, is really phenomenal. You also have a really advanced adaptive cruise control. So I've set it now with this here. It's centering me in the lane. I've kept it at 150 so we can speak a little bit more freely. And it maintains the car in the middle of the lane, as we can see right now. It can also, if I'm going really slow at around 15 kilometers an hour, 10 kilometers an hour, when you're in a traffic jam, it puts your car to the edge of the lane. Because here in Germany, it's the law that you have to provide the passage for the emergency vehicle. So you have to split, like Moses split the sea. You have to split the cars across, and it does that automatically. And if you don't have the cruise control on, it recognizes that you're in a traffic jam on the Autobahn and gives you a reminder. How cool is that? It also has, adaptive radar cruise control, which again is old tech, but it works really well. And it uses, of course, because of the plug-in hybrid system, the regenerative braking here, so that it recuperates that electric energy and puts it back into the battery. Like we're coming up to a car right now, you will see that the SUV starts to decelerate gradually, especially in the comfort mode. Even the behavior of the cruise control is altered. It's not so abrupt in acceleration or deceleration. It's a little bit more subdued and gentle, like it is right now. So let's take a look at the mileage. We've been driving for about 3 hours now, covered 135 kilometers. Of course, we were filming in the mountain roads. I was driving in sports or Sport Plus mode. So all that considered, we have 6.5 liters for 100 kilometers in terms of the petrol consumption. And then we have 12 kilowatt hour for 100 kilometers, which is really good. But we've only been driving 50% in electric mode. So, well, their claimed range of 80 kilometers in pure electric does seem pretty reasonable. Although 6.5 liters for 100 kilometers for a plug-in hybrid, yeah, it's not the best. Of course, if you're going 200 on the Autobahn, you're not going to get nice numbers. But 130, I think then it's a little bit more reasonable. All said and done, this is an AMG, so it's the engine is designed to be, provide more power output. But that isn't to say that here with the right mode, it's not giving you good mileage. Sound insulation is also really nice at lower speeds. That tire noise and the wind noise is completely blocked. And even here with the contraflow, oftentimes assistance systems get a bit flustered when you have contraflow, because with the orange lines versus the white lines, they don't know what to do. This behaves quite well. Visibility out the side, visibility in the front as well. To place it in this lane is really easy. And that sudden torque when you put your foot down means that if you find a gap in the highway, you can really jump into that gap without any issues. So what do I think about the GLE 553 Hybrid? Well, let's talk about the price first. It's 126,000 euros. The Coupé starts at 134,000 euros. Ouch, it's eye-watering. But that being said, you get a lot of kit as standard. I really don't think you need to invest in any other features. Like you get the panoramic roof as standard, you get the 360 camera as standard. So you get all the things you could possibly need bundled in together. And it's a great combination of comfort, of high-speed mannerisms, of winding roads, dynamic capability. It ticks all the boxes. And something this large, it really defies physics. It's just, do you have the money to spend on something like this? That's probably all it comes down to. Let me know what you think, put it down in the comments below. And while you're at it, why don't you watch one of these other videos to see how this stacks up with some of its competitors. Thanks for watching.